I appreciate it, Howie Kurtz. And Paul Manafort has accepted a plea deal with the special counsel, Bob Mueller, and Trump haters celebrating. Joe DeGeneva explains why they might want to save the confetti, plus some explosive new text between Strzok and Page. All that next.
All you have to do is look at the plea. The plea is to crimes that have to do with Manafort's past. No involvement with President Trump, no involvement with the campaign, no involvement with Russia. And by the way, there's also no evidence of obstruction. There have been 4 guilty pleas now, and they're completely irrelevant.
That was Rudy Giuliani moments ago with Sean Hannity shredding the narrative of the resistance after Paul Manafort agreed to plead guilty in a deal with special counsel Bob Mueller today. And despite the media proclamations all day long, we still don't know that Manafort is cooperating with Mueller's team against President Trump. Joining me now to break it all down, Joe DeGeneva is a former U.S. attorney in Washington, D.C., and Kendall Coffey, former U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Florida. Gentlemen, great to see both of you. Joe, you said earlier today, I believe, that this is a Potemkin village. This is a mirage. Tell our viewers why that is.
Well, this was done for the benefit of Mr. Mueller and the benefit of Mr. Manafort. It accomplishes absolutely nothing. It has nothing to do with Mr. Mueller's mandate. It prevents Mr. Manafort from getting consecutive time. It also prevents Mr. Mueller from having to go through a trial and waste resources. And it also permits Mr. Manafort to cooperate in the ongoing investigation by Mueller of Tony Podesta and of others, including Gregory Craig, formerly of the law firm Skadden Arps. So all in all, I would say the walls are closing in, but not on the president.
Kendall, I want to go to you because Alan Dershowitz called this a big deal today. He said, basically this was not great news for the administration. He also then discussed the issue of a possible pardon and the timing of a pardon for Paul Manafort. Let's watch.
I think once he agrees to cooperate, he has to cooperate about everything. There's no such thing as partial cooperation. The question is, did he cooperate too late? Would he have been better off cooperating before his first trial? I think he was perhaps hoping for a pardon. And then the question comes up, did the president act too late? If he was going to pardon, he'd have been much better off pardoning early rather than waiting until he's already cooperated.
Kendall, your thoughts on the pardon issue and the overall development today with the Manafort plea?
Well, it doesn't look like a pardon is going to happen. Manafort may have waited for one, hopefully, and then decided he had to throw in the towel. But I don't agree that this is a major event. Manafort really had no choice after he lost the first trial. And if indeed he had the goods on the president, don't you think he would have been cooperating a long time ago if he had that kind of leverage? If we look at this set of criminal charges and compare it to Michael Cohen, now the Michael Cohen charges did try to take an aim at the president. This doesn't do anything like that. And in fact, if you look at the charges, rather than suggesting collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia, it suggests collusion between Manafort and Democrats with respect to the apparently allegedly illegal efforts to lobby on behalf of Ukrainian government forces.
Yeah, and before we get to the Strzok Page text, Joe, you mentioned briefly Greg Craig, former Obama White House counsel for the first year of the administration. He is now, I guess they're weighing federal charges against him in the Southern District of New York as an unregistered foreign agent and against his old law firm, Skadden Arps, which, full disclosure, I worked for 20 years ago. But that's an interesting development. For people who haven't been following this, they're sucking up perhaps the Podestas, sucking up Greg Craig. Again, none of it related to Trump, but it is related to the idea of working on behalf of foreign countries and not disclosing it. So where's the collusion there?
Well, there is none for President Trump and his campaign. There is plenty there for the Democrats, not only the derivation of the dossier and the working with Russian officials to generate it through Christopher Steele, but it was obvious, and that's why Tony Podesta, had to close his lobbying form because they had never registered as foreign agents. And that case was turned over, and it's now quite evident that the Southern District of New York is investigating both Gregory Craig for his role in the undisclosed Ukraine work in the United States and Mr. Podesta. This is all quite good for the president because it makes his point quite beautifully and I must say with some fashion. This is where the rubber meets the road. There never has been any evidence of collusion by the President of the United States and his campaign, and actually the plea by Manafort today simply underscores that.
Yeah, and it's not clear that Manafort is cooperating on Trump, could be cooperating on the Greg Craig Podesta issue instead. I want to move on, though, to another big story. Tonight, more explosive text just released between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. And it includes this exchange. Check it out from December 19th, 2016, right after the election. Strzok texts Page the following. It will make your head spin to realize how many stories we played a personal role in. Page responds, sheesh, this has been quite a year, and forwards a link to the New York Times most read stories of 2016. Kendall, what does this tell you about the paramour's involvement with the media in setting a narrative against Trump and his associates?
Yeah, it's deeper and worse than we thought. And we already thought it was pretty bad. They talked about stopping the Trump candidacy. Now they're orchestrating a media campaign. And by the way, throwing some things in there, how they're going to maybe set up some pretexts for interviews, coordinating ongoing leaks, obviously aimed at the Trump administration. So this is a serious thing. And what's going to be difficult is trying to understand and nail down how much influence did they have on others who were involved. They were high-ranking people. They were involved at critical periods during all of this. But where does the influence end, and how do we diagnose just how much of a taint there is on this?
Yeah. And Lindsey Graham, of course, has called for a second special counsel, Joe DeGenova. Jeff Sessions, God bless him, Rod Rosenstein, this is screaming investigation. We have the Inspector General investigation ongoing, but this needs a Justice Department regular process investigation or a special counsel. This is ridiculous. Setting up a pretext for interviews of Trump officials based on leaks that they planted in the media. So it's like it's this feedback loop in order to get the Trump folks. This is they call Trump an autocrat. This is maddening.
As I've been saying for 2 years, there was a brazen plot to illegally exonerate Hillary Clinton in the email case, and then if she lost, to frame Donald Trump. And that is exactly what these texts are about. Whether or not Mr. Strzok and Lisa Page and others are indicted is certainly a question people can debate. But let me just say, I know that there is a grand jury underway. Testimony is being taken about Strzok, Page, McCabe, and others involved in this case. And the reason we know it is that James Baker, the former general counsel of the FBI, has turned state's evidence and is fully cooperating with the Inspector General and with the federal grand jury. I can assure you, Mr. Comey has been very silent in recent weeks, and the reason is very simple. He knows he's going to be indicted.
Wow, pretty explosive on a Friday night. Joe and Kendall, thanks so much. And up next,